Good morning, everyone. If you are joining the session from Europe, good evening if you are joining from Australia, and good afternoon if you're joining from rest of Asia. We are really excited to have this session today, and also for your information, today is the last cross-faculty dialogue session before you embark on your 3-month-long independent collaboration journey. We are grateful that most of you are here today because it's very crucial to stay up to date, and also if you have any concerns, to raise those so that we can support you better. So first of all, very quickly, some of you missed last session where we shared about the program progress. So it's important that today we highlight those again. So we will go through that very briefly, and then of course we'll highlight the next steps as well as timeline. And then the crucial part for today's session is the book chapter template. Okay, coming back to the agenda again. And today, initially, we decided to have some team building. However, we realized that when not everyone from a particular team is here, it's a bit difficult to build team. For that reason, we leave that up to you. We leave that up to the book chapter lead to have that first introductory meeting for team building. Here today, we want to have a group conversation with everyone so that we can address all the crucial steps, insights, and any questions that you have on the overall independent collaboration journey. And then, of course, we will conclude the session by sharing what to expect next. So with that, please, as I move through these steps, let me know if you have any questions so that I can respond to that. So today we are here, 19 June, and that's the last session of the cross-faculty dialogue phase. And a big congratulations to you for being patient with us, for your commitment and effort throughout this whole phase. A lot happened, and at the end of this phase, we have 12 brilliant book chapters and 12 book chapter teams. So we are proud of that accomplishment together with you, and we are proud of the achievement and efforts that you have showcased so far. So a sincere thank you to all of you from us. And moving on, the next phase, independent team collaboration, cross-faculty team collaboration is absolutely crucial. And in this phase, a lot is on you in terms of the work that you'll be doing, the collaboration that you'll be having. So let us very briefly highlight what each of these phase in this independent stage look like. So the first one, of course, between July and mid-September. So between, of course, some of you already started your team meeting. That is absolutely fine. However, in the official program, we kept July since we acknowledged that some of you might need a break. It depends on the team. If your team is okay, you can start this phase already from now onwards. That's absolutely okay. So in this phase, you have a deadline. I will showcase all the deadlines in the slide later. But for now, let me just share. Around mid-September, you will have one deadline because that's when we will also meet after this long independent phase for the first check-in meeting, where you will have an opportunity to share your work and also get peer feedback to improve it. And then in this phase, we highly request the book chapter lead to organize regular team meetings as needed for writing the first draft. And for the rest of you who are co-authoring, please make sure that you are cooperative, and then you are also contributing as required for the book chapter, and also time. If you, for example, unable to attend any team sessions, let your book chapter lead know in advance so that they can organize or reschedule in a way that works for everybody. And then at the second phase, we will have the second stage of this phase, we will have the first check-in meeting. We are currently discussing with our advisors whether we would need 2 check-in meetings. And we are going to invite all the book chapter lead together with the advisor for a meeting. And during that time, we will decide, and then we will update you in an email accordingly. But for now, we are aiming for 1. And that's on 18th of September. Why? Because in this meeting, you will have an opportunity to get peer feedback, and that's really important to improve your chapter and for the second draft. For now, we will have to readjust the time depending on whether we are having 1 or 2 sessions. So we are aiming for a 10-minute pitch per team on their progress and on the chapter, and then receive, of course, peer feedback. And then after 18 September, you have until end of October, early November, to submit your to submit your second draft based on the peer feedback you received on 18th of September. Basically after this meeting, after the meeting on 18th September, you are again continuing the independent journey to submit your second draft. And finally, we will have the on-site conference. For now, we are looking at 10 to 14 November. So please pencil this down in your calendar. We still have a couple of things to figure out to confirm these dates. Once we have that confirmation from our partner, we will send an email to you as soon as possible so that you are aware of this confirmed date. But for now, this might be it. So please note that down and block your capacity for this so that your other schedule is not clashed with that. During November, during the conference, either before or after, you will submit your final manuscript. You will have an opportunity to get more feedback during the conference when you meet each other in person for the first time, and then work on your second draft to improve it for the final manuscript that will be due in January. And between January and April, the editors and the editorial team will work together, and the publication is planned to launch in May 2026 during the welcome session of next faculty collaboration cohort. So very briefly, just to summarize on the timeline, first draft is Monday, 15th of September, so just before the presentation so that we can prepare all the presentation order or if we have any feedback at all to take care of those. Second draft submission will be on Monday, 3rd of November, so just before the conference. And then final manuscript is due on Monday, 12th January in 2026. And then, as I just mentioned, publication launch is on in May, around mid-May. So now, before we have the group discussion, allow me to go through the template. But before I go through the template, let me pause here for a minute in case anyone have any questions at all on the program, timeline, teamwork, anything at all. And in the meantime, I'm opening my PDF file for the template. You can either raise your hand or simply unmute yourself. Okay, no questions. In that case, let me very quickly share the template. So together with our advisors, we created this guiding template. I mean, there is another instructions from Springer Nature. But that's for manuscript submission. But for now, as you are working throughout this independent phase, let us share this before you begin writing your chapter. So first of all, so the book title, it may change. At the moment, the title is aligned with the project's topic title, which is on effective, inclusive, and ethical AI in education, AI design, innovations and challenges for sustainable learning. If you have a better suggestions on the title, please feel free to let us know. We will take that into consideration, but this is it for now. And it's important to understand the aim of the book. We know that you have already have your abstract, and please note that might change and based on the advisor's feedback as well. So for now, Hopefully you can update it depending on this aim. So for this book, we are aiming to explore and taking a critical perspective, the design, implementation, and impact of AI in education tools through these three thematic lens: effectiveness, inclusivity, and ethics. And of course, the focus is on sustainable learning outcome. Why? Because this book is part of the series on AI and sustainable development, so we had to include that aspect here as well. And of course, you are coming from diverse background from Asia and Europe. And for that, of course, it's obvious that all of you are bringing interdisciplinary and interregional, bi-regional perspectives. And some of you are here teacher trainer, training teachers. Some of you are academics, researchers. So of course, there is that research and practice-based insights as well. And our goal is to really look for frameworks or case studies that might show us how we can purposefully shape and uphold human-centered values in education, in this AI-driven education transformation, and then support equitable and student or learner-driven teaching and learning. And of course, the goal of this book is also to highlight not just innovation or cutting edge activities that are taking place in terms of teacher training or teaching and learning, but also challenges that we all should be aware of, especially teachers. And here we don't really want to focus on a number of SDG goals. It's very obvious that we want to highlight and focus on goal 4, which is on quality education. And of course, the main focus of the conversation is on Asia-Europe, but of course, we if it's justified in your chapter's case, you can go beyond Asia and Europe. But please note that the first thing is about Asia-Europe perspectives. And we are not really looking for evidence-based. If you can provide evidence, that's great. But at this stage, we are really looking for forward-looking reflections and recommendations for policy and practice related to teacher education or preparing teachers for quality education in the AI era. And Asia-Europe perspectives is very important for us because the organization stands for it. This is a unique approach that we take in all of our project. And in this project also, as you can see, every team has an Asian and a European. Ideally, you would have wanted to, for example, have in a team of 4, 2 Asians and 2 Europeans. But as we did the team allocations based on your interest and sign up, sometimes there are 3 Asians and only 1 European in a team. So it is what it is. However, we hope that still through cooperation and mutual discussions, you can have a balanced Asia-Europe perspective for each chapter. And we want to make sure that through your work, we all attempt to support educators and policymakers for actionable strategies, potentially around the area of evaluating the educational impact of AI tools, ensure equitable access across diverse learning environments, and of course, mainly address critical and ethical issues such as data privacy, for example. And then we want to highlight that this Asia-Europe collaboration and perspectives, it definitely provides a unique lens for the work that you'll be doing for this book. And then this point is about, with the research around this topic, there is a lot of speculation, and we want to avoid that. So please, in this 12-book chapter, we hope that you will provide empirical findings from classroom implementations or based on your teacher training practice and policy implementations, depending on your background and your team's background, and comparative data, as well as regional adoption opportunities, as well as challenges. And if any, tested framework or effective, inclusive, and tested framework on these 3 key areas, basically. So again, to highlight, we don't want any unsubstantiated speculation. Each chapter should have actionable recommendations, and we encourage that the recommendations you have is supported by robust evidence from both region and beyond, if any. At the same time, we understand that you might have a unique angle around the speculation of certain claims, right, around the topic. You can include those, but you need to state that this is a speculation, not the truth. And in that way, it's okay to have those kind of claims. Relevance, of course, there any claims or any recommendations that you are suggesting, they should have, at least one or more aspects related to these three key areas of the topic and the project: inclusion, effectiveness, and ethics. And timeline, I just mentioned, so it's the same. We have, for now, you have 3 key timelines. The last timeline is mainly for the editorial team. And hopefully the timeline is scattered in a way where you have ample time for each submissions. The word count, one of our advisor, Li Wen, Professor Li Wen, she already mentioned this in her presentation during last session. So just to reiterate those again, we are looking for the whole book around 110,000 words, and currently we have 12 chapters, and we hope that these 12 chapters that we finalized will make it to the book. We hope that we will have final manuscript for all 12 chapters. And in this case, please aim for around 8,000 to 10,000 words for your chapter. And this word count will include the abstract, notes, references, and any tables or acknowledgements that you have, not figures and illustration. I will explain that in a bit. And then, of course, there might be a situation where we might not have all chapters. I hope that doesn't happen. And during the second stage, around mid-September, we will update you again if anything changes. And then format, of course, we want Microsoft Word document. And then you can write in any... some of you are using MacBook, so you might have a different format. However, when you submit, please make sure that it's submitted in Microsoft Word document. Here you can read out basically these instructions. It's a bit technical, so I will not go through each of them. And also here we added the link from the publisher's advisor for authors. So please check that out together with your team as well. And please note that AI generated images are not permitted. And if you are adding any AI generated content, please make sure that you are putting a reference to it or you are disclosing that information. And for abstract, we are looking at 200 to 300 words. And for notes, we request a minimum number of notes in the format as endnotes at the end of your chapter. And here you can basically have just before the references add any footnotes or any not footnotes, but any endnotes that you have to explain anything or to justify anything or to put any additional information. And then for reference, of course, it's APA 7th edition. And here we have the link if you wish to check out. And then please, any tables that you are using with data, for example, we do not want images. Please have the table in a way where it's easy for us to edit. Keywords, of course, you need to mention the keywords as part of your chapter. Better to put it up under the abstract in your Word document. And figures and illustrations will be counted, each figure and illustration as 500 words. So please make note of that as you were preparing to add certain elements. Please note that for this, copyright might be an issue. For example, if you are taking a figure from certain publications, in the case, we want to make sure that there is no copyright issues and you are properly citing and declaring as needed. And of course, the acronyms, as usual, we need that as well. And this is very important. If from the legal perspective, we request you to avoid anything that may be considered actionable or likely to be actionable at law, and it might be removed by the publisher. So please be careful about that. Now, this is very crucial, terminologies and claims. We highly request you to avoid any kind of, as we mentioned earlier, about speculations as well, any substantiated or hyperbolic or anthropomorphic. I learned this word recently from Wayne, one of the advisors. So please avoid those because we are trying to have a book that will promote meaningful understanding of AI and education innovation. So we don't want to, like a lot of other publications, take a stance that misguide teachers or learners or teacher trainers or scholars like you. So we want to be very careful about that. So there are a few examples. Please read those out, but I will highlight a couple of those. For example, a lot of scholars I have read in research papers as well, when it comes to generative AI, they just use ChatGPT. So please don't use ChatGPT as a synonym for generative AI. You can either say generative AI or in short Gen AI. And then I will leave it here so that you can read it out. And then if you have any questions, you can, of course, contact us anytime. It will be mainly me who is coordinating with all the editors. So please send me an email after you read through this whole editorial guidelines. We are going to send a last post cross-faculty session update email, and then you will have it in a PDF format in the email. That's it from me regarding the template. Now let's see if any of you have any questions. Anyone at all? Okay, Matteo. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Let me put this down. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned about the theoretical or methodological grounds of our contribution, you mentioned it has to be critical.
Yes.
And then empirically based to avoid speculation. But if I think about the critical tradition in the theory of science, in the theory of knowledge, critical theory or critical engagement with problematic realities, they don't have to be always empirically based, because what we call data is very often a way for hegemonic powers to manipulate available information. So data, there's a big tradition that question not only the concept of data, but the idea and the limits of empirical methodology. So I would claim, and I think there's many other who would do the same, that in a truly critical perspective, opinions or criticism expressed based on the quality of arguments, it what makes a difference. So because you mentioned, I mean, it seems in your description that the alternative to empirical essay is speculation. I mean, no, in between there is a good argument which use available or non-available data, because sometimes what we don't know is also part of our criticism, to criticize, for example, relations of meanings and relations of power in relation to the discourse of AI and education, for example. I mean, there can be plenty of example. Are you with me on that? Do you agree on this?
Yes.
So we should add that in addition to empirical, of course, we should not have paper who don't substantiate, don't provide arguments for even paradoxical claim, but at least is the quality of the arguments rather than the availability of empirical evidence that's the side of the acceptability or not of those contribution. Am I right?
Absolutely. We had similar discussion as well when, finalizing this template. So thank you so much, Matteo, for raising it. I think to respond to that, what you just said, the quality of argument is very, very important. That's why also, we highlighted that anything that you were adding, there has to be a justification for that. So if you were able to prove for the angle or the methodology that you were taking, as long as that justified and you can argue with the editors, absolutely fine. Yes. Matteo, does that make sense? Did I answer your
Yes,
question?
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
I saw a comment by Tore from Norway,
Okay.
which is, as you can see too. I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Thor, would you like to highlight your comment or elaborate on that?
No, no, really. I just want to say that we need to have some kind of rigor in augmentation and stuff. And we can go into kind of different opinions on methodology and empirical research and all that kind of stuff. The main thing is that we are willing to argue in a sound scientific way whatever claims we are putting forward, and that's the main issue.
Thank you. And also, I want to add to that in terms of taking a stance and sharing the specific argument for each book chapter. Currently, of course, there are book chapters that are going a little bit, I won't say away from the project goal or the thematic goal, but of course, some chapters they need to improve in terms of aligning the thematic scope. So I also want to request those book chapter leads to review and then see if they are aligned with the thematic area as well. And yes, Imogen agrees with both points with Thor and Matteo. Thank you, Imogen. So in terms of from our side, any tips or advice or elements, we don't have a lot because I think at this stage, the teams are formed. Everybody now have everyone's contact details. So we don't want to also impose any specific or strict guidelines. So when we share this template, you can, if you disagree with any of these points or if you have a better suggestion for any of these points, feel free to share that. And then we will then look into those comments and then work on the template again and then share it with everyone. So that's an option as well. So now we just want to have a group conversation and see how we can support one another. So
sorry.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So I would like to ask about the bi-regional aspect of the chapters.
Yeah.
Should it be the main focus, like we need to find the differences, similarities, synthesis, or like how, or can you just like give more clarification on this aspect?
Yes. Thank you so much, Laura. So for bi-regional perspective, so this is something because, the project and the organization stands for it, and we have to include that in our work. So let's say you were part of a team where you have, a number of Asian countries and a number of European countries, right? So when you are sharing examples, of course, then you are bringing perspectives from your countries. Some of these are from Asia, some of these are from Europe. It can be government policy or it can be based on your own institution that is based in Asia or Europe. So when we talk about bi-regional perspective, we mean that. So you are bringing in a way your own country perspectives and then also kind of figuring out a mutual claim or mutual way to frame a narrative from your team members' countries as well. And some of you actually, when we merged and dropped some book chapters, some of you were, for example, focusing on the global south, right? But that doesn't really align with the overall project goal. So for that reason, we had to either merge or provide a better suggestions to not focus specifically on, let's say, Southeast Asia or global south. We wanted to have an Asia-Europe perspective. I know it might be a bit challenging, and as you discuss this with your team members, as you are framing your research questions and then framing your methodology and looking for data to support your claims or find answers for your research questions, and you are struggling with this aspect, let us know. That's what the editorial team is for. We will review your challenge or questions and then get back to you. It's a bit difficult to exactly provide all the answers related to the bi-regional perspectives, because we don't know yet the type of arguments that you are going to have for your book chapter. But this is something we will look into very carefully when you submit the first draft, or even before, if you reach out to us with questions. I hope that.
So
yeah.
So this is the bi-regional aspect is essential, but like how strong it is, it depends on the topic and the team.
Yes.
Okay.
Look at it in this way. Each team is an Asia-Europe team. All of you are coming from Asian and European countries. And through this project, we are supporting AI and education related innovation and transformation in Asia and Europe. So that's in a way, for example, if you're coming from Hungary, how can you support Hungary, right? And if your team member is coming from, let's say, Philippines, how are they supporting Philippines AI-driven education transformation through this teamwork? So in a way, supporting these two countries, one country from Asia, one country from Europe, you are taking that bi-regional stance. So I hope that helps everybody as well if you have questions in this area, but if not, please feel free to ask. Okay, everyone is very quiet. Perhaps then bi-regional specs is clear, but if not, that's okay. We will always get back to you with our review and comment when we have your draft. Now, moving on to the next question, independent team collaboration.
I think Veli has a question.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Yes, Vali, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick one, because so in our case, we're a very small team. What is the way, so I'll convert it in this way. In order to cover both European and Asian contexts, is there an opportunity to perhaps invite one of the editors from the Asian context to I don't know, to support, to expand a little bit the scope? Because so what I'm trying to say is that with three,
Yes.
with three co-authors, but the let's say talking about governance from an Asian perspective, perhaps bringing in some case studies from Indian or Chinese context, that will be quite helpful if we get extra support from some of the editors who may have the capacity, the resource, and the expertise from there. Is it possible to tap into those extra resources from the editors? Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vali, and I'm so glad you asked that question, because that was one of our suggestions that we are going to share tomorrow in our email, but also mentioned today in the end. So this is something we have discussed. First of all, let me give you an overview of all the teams. In some teams, actually only I think 3 teams, you have 3 members. And why? Because it had to be based on the sign up, right? So for example, let's say some chapters really had a high number of members who signed up for it, but all of them are chapter lead. So when their chapter got selected, then you are left with only, including yourself, 2 other fellows. And then we had to really work hard to ensure that every team has an European and an Asian. So in your team, there is only 1 Asian, because that's the only Asian who signed up for it, and the rest were, for example, book chapter leads. So that's why, but at least we were able to have a team of 3 instead of just 2, and then the rest teams are 4. So ideally, we wanted to have 4 team members, 2 Asians and 2 Europeans, but of course it's not possible. We don't have the exact Asia-Europe balance in the whole cohort. So related to that, we understand that some of you might need more support, and some of you might have colleagues who are highly motivated to join your team and support your work, and also they learn along the way. So we tapped the option to include any additional colleagues from your institutions or your team members in institutions. So this is a decision that had to be mainly taken by the book chapter leads and inform us accordingly. So For example, Valley, let's say you were inviting someone from your institution. They want to, someone from Asia. It has to be ASEM country, though. It has to be one of those ASEM countries. And then you want to include them. And they may or may not be from your institution. They might be from other institution. That's okay. And you can invite them in this case. You can ask them to fill out the registration form. Because we need their consent for the project, so that they are aware of their engagement as well. And it's okay that they didn't participate in this cross-faculty dialogue phase, because of course at this stage the book chapter leads, they are aware of the whole process and they can guide them. So you can invite those and then keep us informed. However, our funding for the conference is mainly dedicated to everyone who joined this project from the beginning. And our our goal is to support those of you. And then only if we have any additional resources, and based on book chapter lead's recommendation, we will be able to invite those additional colleagues who are joining at this stage to write the book chapter. So their, in this sense, main contribution will be co-author for the book chapter, but not necessarily the conference participation. We just want to highlight that. Yeah.
This is fantastic because this also supports more creative ideas on the methodology of how we put up a chapter. Thank you so much. This was super helpful.
Thank you, Vali. We are glad that we can help as well. But only that limitation, the conference participation, mainly because of the availability of resources and funding. And then, I mean, of course, this is not an issue for our Chinese colleagues because the conference will be in China, but we will try our best to have everyone who is actively contributing to bring to the conference. And then, so they have to, mainly the only thing they need to do is sign up for this, the registration form, so that, that one. And please note that, of course, every book chapter, there is always an ideal number. Like we don't want 10 authors for one book chapter, so make sure that that number of how many are contributing and how many are part of your team is to a standard limit. And if any of you have more, please let us know and share their profile with us, and then we will get back to you. And in addition to registration, we will also have to then update the participants booklet based on their information. So that's something the book chapter lead need to help us with as well if you are bringing additional team member. So yes, I think I answered any concerns or issues related to it, Vali. Do you have any additional questions on this?
That's all. Thank you from my end. Thank you very much, Jyoti.
You're welcome. Anyone have any questions? I know that some of you, especially for the chapter that is merged, you might want to bring a colleague to support the team better. That's okay. In that case, simply just let us know. We can have we are very happy to have a quick chat with you, or you can send us an email, then we will immediately get back to you. Okay, with that, the next point I was about to talk about is the timeline. So the timeline is you have 3 deadlines, one in September, mid-September. The second one is in November, and the third one, the final one, is in January. Does anyone have any objection to that, or do you have any concern? Okay. Very glad to hear that the deadline is okay with everyone. Or maybe you need some time to think and look into your capacity. Hopefully it's okay.
Jyoti, could you repeat? Was it 10th of January? I didn't hear it properly.
Yes, let me very quickly share my slide again. I hope slide is up, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So these are the timelines. Maybe we will share this PPT, of course, but for now, you can also just take a screenshot or photo of the slide. So these are the timeline. And as you can see, we really try to keep it as flexible as possible so that before every deadline, you have ample time to work on the feedback. So I think the first crucial deadline is the first draft. That's why the timeline is also a bit longer. So from now till September, right? So I think once you have the first draft, it's at least you have figured out the majority of this stuff, right? The only thing will be left is to improve it based on peer feedback and editorial team's feedback. And then September, October, November, you have the second draft submission. And of course, you are coming to the conference with already an improved version of your draft based on peer and editorial feedback. And then in November, you were working basically with each other in person, and then you were improving your chapter. And when you are there, hopefully you are not bringing a lot of work commitments with you, and you can fully focus and then help each other and finalize your book chapter. And then after November, you have whole of December, and then also a little bit of early January. We also acknowledge that this time is a holiday period, and also New Year, right? So we don't want to, we don't want to just assume that everybody will have opportunities to work a lot during this time. So our recommendation is that during the conference, when you are there in person, to figure out most of the stuff for the chapter so that you don't have to work a lot. For finalizing. Yes, Laura.
Just to clarify, so the deadlines is when the chapter leaders submit the drafts and manuscript to you.
Yes, so it's in the template, the submission guideline. So the only thing that, so the submission will be by the book chapter lead, and it will be in my email with ClassNet and CC. And then I will basically code in with all the editors. Yeah. So you have it in the email address and everything in the template. And then in terms of the final manuscript, of course, consolidations and working it with the stringent nature, we will take care of it. Any other questions related to timeline? Okay, I hope timeline is very clear. Now, with that, we just want to have a group conversation with everyone. So the next point is time zone. So all of you are coming here. I think I'm especially looking at our Australian and New Zealand fellows from New Zealand, because you are on a very different time zone. So I think coordinating with Europe, I think the time that might work will be your evening. So apologies for that. But if anyone have any issues related to time zone, let us know. But from our side, we can share with you that this time, so 4 p.m. Singapore time or 5 p.m. Singapore time, Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, between 3 to 5 p.m. Singapore time is a time zone, is a time that works for both region. So often that's why also most of our sessions takes place around this time as well, on partner meetings and everything. To have a balanced, to have a meeting timeline that works for everybody, I think we will suggest this time, anytime between 3 to 5 for your team meetings. Okay. Now, if you don't have any questions on time zone and meeting time, we trust that all the book chapter leads are figuring this out with their team. We will move on to the next point, inclusive perspectives. So we know that when you were, it's very common in academia, I think, dominating ideas. So we want to highlight today that for our book, we want to have inclusive perspectives. So idea of a book chapter lead, as well as ideas of co-authors, all are equally important and valid. However, yes, it is true, the book chapter lead, they have the advantage of, framing the narrative in a way, because they are taking a lot more load in terms of, managing this work, right? So in this context, we highlight that all the co-authors are cooperative, and book chapter lead is, they are also cooperative towards, embracing new ideas and making sure that the whole work process is inclusive and cooperative among all the fellows. And I have already received a couple of emails where they said that, teamwork is going fantastic and everyone is really cooperative. So we are very happy to hear that. Any questions regarding this inclusive perspectives? Anyone want to share any advice? For example, if you worked in an intercultural or an international team, which we are sure all of you did. If you have any challenges that you have encountered and how you overcame it, if you would like to share any insights, advice with the rest of the fellows, please take the floor. Yes, Vali, I saw your raised hand.
Yeah, I'm just trying to I'm trying to use the Zoom more interactively instead
No
of pushing
worries.
buttons. But anyway, I mean, just my 2 cents experience in co-authoring. Usually, a lead author will take kind of a first shot at it, and then designating roles through, in a participatory way, basically, through discussion, depending on what the team is, even with very large teams, because at some point, if you reach to this place where every single person disagrees, it's it becomes quite a challenge. But that's why a lead author is a lead. So they create the initial scaffolding, and then it's also important to get to know each other as co-authors. I'm just sharing my experience and see where the strengths are, what are our available resources. And that's why I asked the previous question. We have this as big resources, and then the smaller clusters per chapter. That's what I wanted to suggest, or at least to share as an experience. Writing a first very, very rough draft, and giving a chance then for the co-authors to look at things and say, wait a minute, something's missing. So they become kind of co-editors and co-writers at the same time. Like the main idea should already be there, suggested, and that's why we had these pitches, right?
Yes.
So that things can start being built up rather than start from scratch from a blank canvas. That will be a problem. That's my experience, at least.
Yeah, thank you, Vali, for sharing. So in this context, yes, you were right. Through the pitches, we have the book chapters and main ideas. So the inclusive perspectives, it's more about as you are moving along, and whether it's about changing methodology or it's about certain research data or literature review, right? Your co-authors and colleagues might have ideas, and we just want to make sure that everyone's ideas is heard. And let's say if you cannot proceed with certain ideas, then you also tackle that in an inclusive and in a cooperative manner, whether where the fellow understand that and feel comfortable and confident with the decision that this is why this was not taken forward. So we just want everyone to work in a respectful, cooperative, and inclusive environment, so that everyone at the end of the day can be proud of their work and feel like their voices are heard. Because at the end of the day, this book is about all of your voices. So we want to make sure that all of you have opportunities for contributing. Any other questions or advice? I know that because we have been working with them very closely for the past couple of months, and with one of them more than year, 1 or 2 years actually. Margus and Lee, I think you guys are here. You have been our fellow, and then you have been also working in teams in the past 2 editions. Do you have any advice? And also one of our actually Thor and Matthew, if you were here, I saw Thor earlier. You were not only fellows for this book chapter writing phase, but you were also our partner, and you were working with us as well. So if you have any advice at all based on your experience, yes, Margus, thank you so much. Sorry I didn't see you on my screen. Yes, please.
All good. Hello. So, according to my experience, one of the most important things has been timeline, and another one, communication. So that my suggestion is that please make your own much more detailed timeline compared to the one what Jyoti just shared as a general the list of deadlines that you have to meet. But in order to reach there, because you all have different times for holidays, for example, you have to take this also inclusively into account. and then a communication regarding the timelines. And if something is delayed, then please please tell the team members immediately, because then maybe they are waiting and they have in their calendar already some time booked for reading what you had to share, but then everything will be changed, and so that's why it's very important is immediate communication, but also communication and open communication regarding the ideas you have, so that it's not a good idea that you will keep the ideas for yourself and then finally you are not happy about the outcome. So that's from my side very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margus. Absolutely, because when I send out the team emails, I already received some auto reply that some of our fellows are on holiday right now. So yes, absolutely, because yes, when you are going on holidays or going away for a long time during this period, it's absolutely important that you communicate that with your book chapter lead or any other, not just holiday, any other important academic engagement that you have where you might have limited capacity to contribute. Then figure out a timeline where you can work to have your contributions ready for the chapter and then allocate responsibilities accordingly. So thanks so much, Margus, for highlighting that. I saw Lee earlier. I think Lee wanted to share some advice as well.
Hi, Janet. Thank you. Yeah, not really some advice, but I was just wondering because it is we are basically we have to work during the holiday. It's July and August, so it is quite tricky to organize the work.
Yeah.
But also, I feel because for this book, it's quite a unique approach. We only selected 12 chapters. We really put our faith on you because we didn't give any room for select after people submit their chapters. So we really just feel this 12 chapter will be finish on time and have a high quality, then we can all work towards the final. So thank you very much for everyone to put all the effort into. So we will say all the team will all be there. We will have a wonderful 12 chapters. That's all we expected at this stage. Thank you. And also maybe I don't know whether we have the time for the expo already announced. And also there's this potentially maybe we will talk about more. We're also thinking about organize a AIED conference. So which means all the fellow could submit some paper and share their work during the education expo. So that's some additional work. Just we will send more announcement later. Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely important. Thank you so much, Lee. So just to reiterate what just Lee said, this information is actually going to our last cross-faculty update email because we understand that not all fellows are here. So for that reason, we are going to put everything together in an email and then share this with you. So you'll have it. So basically, this Faculty Collaboration Conference is taking place alongside the China Education Innovation Expo. And then you will have opportunities to join that. So from ASEF's side, we are, of course, covering the expenses and everything for the main conference that's related to this track. And then after that, there will be the Education Innovation Expo, and some of you might be very interested to join that and have an exposure to how AI-driven education transformation is taking place in China. What are the tools that are available? I think it will be quite interesting. And then there is also another conference that is separated from this, but along the same line, that Lee and her team are organizing on AI Ed as well. So we are going to, and there is an opportunity for contributing academic work to that as well in the form of conference proceedings. That's right, Lee, right? Lee?
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
right.
Conference
So,
proceedings.
yeah,
Yes. Yes, yes.
yeah.
So we will for now share in our update email, share the dates and what exactly what type of task or requirements it has. But once you know, if you show your interest, you just let us know, and then we will share your details with this conference team, and then they will get back to you as well, so that
And
you know.
also,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, Lee.
and also good, and also the conference proceeding also it's work collaboratively with UAU on the conference proceeding and the Springer.
Yeah.
So in the same line with what we're doing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee. Thor, do you have any advice? You are working across Norway and China. I don't know if you have any advice that you'd like to share about intercultural work and team.
Well, I have to be quick, but I think it's important to discuss the means of communication, because there are different platforms and email or other direct communication channels. That is important to discuss early on, because you need to have a flexible way of communicating. Yeah. Sometimes that might be not easy through all the hurdles that are in the channels we use and in the internet.
Yeah. Thank you so much for highlighting this, Thor. And we actually encountered a challenge just yesterday. We had another track, our school collaboration empowered track, and some of the participants, they couldn't join via Teams, and we had to immediately change the Zoom link, and we had to manage expectation from both sides, who were, you know, in the process of joining the team and who were already there, and switching it back from Teams to Zoom. So in that kind of scenario, it's absolutely important that all of you are patient and supporting one another. And I want to highlight one example, one personal example that I had when I was collaboratively working, and that's experience comes from Norway. And I think, Thor, you will agree. So that was my first cultural shock. I was working for the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education, and my office was right in front of the door. And I just saw that every morning, as my colleagues are entering, nobody is saying good morning to me. Whereas for me, in our culture, or even in Singapore, we are very chatty. We will go around and say good morning, and then, you know, so the environment is different, right? So I really thought nobody cared, or you know, I wasn't sure, and I was really sad about it. So during one of the team sessions, I apologized and I shared, you know, I hope I didn't offend anyone in any way. Then they came together and they said, oh, no, in Norway, we like everyone's space. We like a space. We like to give a space. So we didn't want to see that you were concentrating on your work. We didn't want to bother you. So I think in intercultural scenarios, you are from Asia and Europe, sometimes some of you might be along this same line. Sometimes it might be really different and you might get a cultural shock. So for this, we really request you to talk to each other. If you were because, you know, a healthy team environment is absolutely crucial for you know, having a contribution that is truly brilliant and innovative. So if you are feeling in any sort of way in your teams, I hope that you can talk to each other or raise this to your book chapter lead, and then you know, have a sense of belonging in the team and not feel discouraged or demotivated in any way. Okay, so I think our next point is related to the conference. So far, all the fellows who were here at this stage, some of them unfortunately had to drop out for you know, various reasons, professional or personal. That's okay. And all of you in our, as per our record, indicated that you can join the conference. So there shouldn't be any issues, because from now onwards, we will have to work with our partner to prepare any visa issues or any, you know, permission related entering to China. Like there are, I think these days, even for some countries that didn't need visa earlier, now they do. For example, UK, you need visa to China now. So we will be working on those things. And we know and we noted that all of you are coming to the conference. Of course, if let's say some team member have to drop out and didn't contribute to the book chapter, in this case, we cannot take them to the conference. If any of you have any questions or issues, let us know. And also, please, those of you check your passport validity as well, that it's valid for 6 months, so that there will be no issues at the time of submitting a visa application if you need to. And regarding these preparations, we will get in touch with you in due time. In batches, because for some the visa requirements are different, or some of you don't need visa. So we will keep you informed with all this preparation. And with that, our next agenda to have a group discussion is about it's actually any other business. So anything else that any of you have or any of you would like to share, please take the floor. Matthew, from an organizing perspective, because you are a fellow as well as our partner based at BNU, do you have any insights or remarks that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to welcome every our fellows to come to BNU Zhuhai. As Lee said, that there's two kind of very important international conference and event. One is the Innovative Expo, and one is AIED. And also that we are not in the list mentioned that proceedings is not only about the conference paper, that's also that innovative teaching cases also are welcomed to share in the expo, and also that we will have that AI empowered teaching cases design into our conference proceedings. So that's be also a good chance for individual fellows to contribute to them. More interesting work.
Thank you, Matthew. And actually, there was another, not a big point, but a key point that I forgot to mention earlier, working with Chinese colleagues. This is a scenario that we face across all projects, and of course we request all of our fellows to be patient with our Chinese colleagues. If you have team members who are from China, unfortunately some of these tools, for example Google, or some of the like WhatsApp, or some of the social media tools, that doesn't work. For example, we have for our partner communication a WeChat group with Lee, Matthew, Thor, and other colleagues. So please make sure that if you have Chinese colleagues, we highly recommend the WeChat. WeChat, it's like WhatsApp, to download that. And if I think it was Imogen's team who raised the question that Google Doc doesn't work, and you were trying to explore alternatives. So my question here to our Chinese colleagues, do you have any recommendations in addition to Google Doc? Do you have anything that you would like to share and support those book chapter lead who have Chinese colleagues in their team?
Yeah, I think that perhaps personally, I prefer to use Google Doc.
Yeah.
To use VPN. So that is my recommendation. Actually, because when I work with Imogen, that for example, the Google Doc is a very efficient way. So that the alternative would be a WeChat group, but it's not a shared document. So that Google Doc would be better. That I recommend every fellow to use VPN to have that Google Doc, and also that working with Chinese colleague. On behalf of Chinese, our fellows, that Chinese people are always very friendly, hardworking, but no pressures. If they work all the time, but they are very flexible as well, so that's no problem.
I just wonder, I think most of us in this group, the Chinese colleagues, should have access to Google Docs. should be problem. Maybe sometimes, I don't know, but most Google Docs works fine for us. But also, I think maybe when you email our Chinese colleague, probably need to be aware a little bit, because our Chinese colleague don't check email often, because WeChat is our main communication tools. So that's why probably need a little bit of time. So we probably on our first team meeting, we should just tell our Chinese colleague that they need to check email. If email is your main communication tool, they need to be aware to check their email regularly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lee, and thank you, Matthew. And on this, actually, internally, we were thinking ahead to plan for the conference. We usually, for every conference that we have, for urgent communications and support, we have a WhatsApp group with all the participants. But in this case, we were thinking about a WeChat group. So we want to check with all of you. Instead of waiting for the conference, if you would like to have the WeChat group from now on, so that can be a communication platform for everybody as well, for that community spirit. Yes, Imogen. Yeah.
I had some problems trying to join WeChat. It may just be user error. Quite likely, I'm not very good at sort of admin form joining app sort of things, but it's possible that it may be difficult for other people. So just wanted to mention that might be, people might need some assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think get yourself into WeChat kind of communication would, as early as possible, would be better, because if you come to China and then lots of things we will need to use WeChat, and lots of announcement, something you need to probably help you with some guidance in China as well. So, and also payment, you could use WeChat.
Yeah.
Pay thing as well. So it's good to have the WeChat sorted now. Imogen, we will help you sort out the problem, hopefully.
Yeah. Probably just me being a bit dim.
Okay, so in this case, I think we need everyone's consent to, because when we create the group, then everyone has each other's mobile number, right? So we will send an email with the instructions for WeChat, as well as also to seek your consent to create the group. So I think after that, I mean, of course, we understand some of you might want to opt out of this, that's fine, but then you will be at disadvantage in terms of, let's say, having those communications or checking in with this group, right? If you currently we are going to send emails during each important phase, and also whenever we have an announcement. But when we have the WeChat group, if we do, we will of course can keep in touch with each other on a more regular basis, or for sharing resources if anybody come across anything useful during the independent phase. But yes, we respect those wishes. If you want to opt out of this, no worries. I think with that, Matthew and Lee, we will work with you and figure out this advice about what to mention and what instructions to share in the email. So we will work with you on that. I think that's sorted. Yes, Google Doc. For that, those of you who are working from China, whether Chinese colleague or our European colleagues based in China, you will need VPN. Yeah, so I think, for example, at ASEF for VPN, we have the organizational support. We just need to go to our IT and they will help us set up the VPN for us in our work computer. So for some of you might have these opportunities to check with your institution if they are doing so, or supporting that support from IT, or some of you might already know and using it on your own. Or if you need any help, write to us, then we will also try and figure out what we can do for you. I don't have any other points in our list, so I think here we still have about 19 minutes. So if you have any questions, remarks, or anything that you want to share, we will discuss those. If not, I think the session. I will share what to expect next and close the session. So anyone?
I don't know if this is appropriate. Maybe I just got this idea, it's been buzzing in my mind, that when we talk about cultural diversity, of course, there are also epistemic issues associated with that. For example, when we think about the concept education, and it is one word, but in different culture, education means a completely different thing. And if we think of the pedagogical implications of education, for example, we have this Bildung in the West, and I don't know if equally influential Confucianism nowadays in the East, as far as I know. I would say, I'm concerned about the role of implicit pedagogy, which means we're going to talk about education as if it was one big thing, the same concept for everybody, where actually it's only the same word, and there might be a very different concept behind. Is it too much to think that we might be explicit about the implicit pedagogy we are talking about, or we have in mind when we talk about education, or is it too much? The same thing when we talk about AI and problems, for example, relating to surveillance, privacy, subjectivity, you can mention it. There are so many things, and different cultures have very different idea about what is acceptable surveillance, for example, or what is acceptable limits to individual of group privacy, not to mention the notion of subjectivity. In sociology and social anthropology, we are still talking about individualistic versus collectivist society. If that means anything, a generation of students are trained on that. I understand this is a bit of a radical thing, big issue, but I'm sure Wayne would like to discuss that, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. He would. Yeah. Anyone would like to comment to Matteo? Anyone have similar or different perspectives?
Omar.
Yes, Omar, go ahead.
That some expectations are a bit universal, for example, privacy. Even though it's a challenge to every country, it's not a matter of whether it's Asian, American, or it's a challenge to every school, actually, individual schools. It's not just to a country. However, I think it's here we must embark to reach that level. I mean, in terms of privacy, in terms of the right of truth, in terms of equality education, since he brought the picture into education in general. So I think there are some things which are universal in this case, but they are, having said that, they pose a challenge to each school, to respective schools and to teachers in general, irrespective of where they are in the world. It's something that we have even this, I believe that even this group, we have to push forward to educate in our ways and means to every teacher to respect students, not just in terms of access to AI tools, but also how they are accessed and what can be accessed, and even the challenges of the well-being, for example, of students, respect and what they post and what the fake news that AI is posing. And I think these are the issues that we have to address somehow, irrespective not just of the continent, not just of the country, but also individual educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Matteo?
Yeah, I think that it is yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, Matthew, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. I think that the different definition, different concept of education is core value for our collaboration, because I think that the difference will make spark different ideas among people. So that that's the one of the key advantage if we have a different meaning of education and different meaning of what can be done in the AI age, for the AI age. So that could be very interesting to discuss, and different perspective will emerge or that spark into a more creative idea. So that's no problem. I think that I really would like to explore more different definition, except from UK, China, or America, but I mean, different countries. Yeah.
Matteo, would you like to respond to Omar or Matthew regarding their
Matteo,
comments?
me now. Yes.
Yes.
So of
Apologies.
course, I agree with Matthew, and I agree, of course, also with our colleague from Malta. Where is it? Omar. Thank you. My question was not necessarily about the relevance in itself, but how much space we have in our contributions, because this is obviously a completely, it's a huge issue. But I suppose the answer is then we will do our best in relation to our contribution, to keep this perspective in mind. Of course, a practical suggestion could be if somebody would look into this meta dimension of the chapters, if there would be an extra chapter by somebody who's interested in this kind of topic, then we can maybe assess how certain key concepts are used in our chapters, which will give a self-reflective dimension to the whole work. But I'm aware that that requires a new team, which cannot work until the chapters are ready, which will delay the whole operation, of course.
Matteo, if it's okay with you, can I organize a call with you and Wayne, and also the other
that would be
Wayne,
lovely.
Margus and Lee as well, and Mickey, our editorial boards. And I think before the first draft comes in, we can definitely have a chat and see how we can address this, also to improve the book chapters and the overall goal. And then I think we can share based on our discussions, a couple of things that we agree on, or recommendations that we have with all the fellows, if that's okay with you. Because I think this is something we all need to discuss together, instead of just, agreeing or disagreeing.
Yes, I will be glad to discuss that further. The idea is to keep as much value as possible from what Matthew rightly pointed as a key element in the limits of this operation. I mean, in the time constraints and everything. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Okay, we will then get back to you separately on this to include this in the overall journey. Allow me to share my slides again so that we can close the session by sharing what to expect next. So that's the timeline. So yes, now you are on your own, and hopefully, you are on your own, but you are in good hands with these amazing book chapter leads. And then we are here as well. Anytime if you have questions during this phase, don't wait. Please reach out to us so that we can support you as soon as possible and support you in a timely manner. You were, of course, as we mentioned earlier, you were allowed to start your work from now on if all the team members agree, but officially it's between July to October, this independent collaboration phase. And then we will be during this time, from time to time, related to the conference prep or any other announcement that we have, we will share emails. Please look out for those emails, and maybe you can create a folder if you haven't done so yet in your inbox, and any emails that you receive from us, all these updates, you can keep it together so that you have all the information in one place. And we have our last thematic webinar, which is mainly focused on effective AI tools, by Professor Mutlu Chukruba from University College London, and the timing is a bit different than the other sessions. It's 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Singapore time, and of course this is optional for you, and we will be sharing the recording with you after the session. So if you don't want to join live or you don't want to join at all, that's absolutely fine, but this is just for your information. And with that, it has been an absolute pleasure and motivation and inspiration for us to interact with you during this cross-faculty journey with all these sessions. And we have learned so much from you and your feedback to improve this process. And we are, the whole team, both BNU and the ASEFClassNet team, we are very grateful for that. And at this stage, we want to wish you all the best and good luck for your independent team collaboration journey. And then and you will hear from us throughout this phase via emails. And we eagerly wait to see you again on 18th of September.